a very important and a very significant reason. We are here this evening to pray and to commune together in remembrance of he who on this day 2,000 years ago met and finally overcame every obstacle that life on the mortal plane had presented to him, and symbolically every obstacle and every challenge that life presents to us. The crucifixion of Jesus was the supreme test of his life here on earth. It was a time when he proved that man, having faith in God, can rise above all earthly, all worldly limitations and issues and challenges and still attain spiritual perfection. My friends, we are growing towards that point of spiritual perfection for each of us. Now, on Good Friday, in unity, we don't think of this as a day of sorrow. It is a solemn occasion, but we don't think of it as a day of sorrow, as a time of sorrow, and we don't dwell on the pain and the suffering and the agony that Jesus endured through the crucifixion. The crucifixion, my friends, has a number of lessons in it for us. And we should all know by now, because we've been coming here for a little while now, that we are working on our own spiritual growth. That's the plan, that's the idea, that's why we are here, to work on our own personal spiritual growth and to take the information and messages and stories and parables and miracles that are in the Bible, to take them and see how we can apply them in our own personal life, world, and affairs. The spiritual meaning of the crucifixion is that of the soul passing from sense consciousness to spiritual consciousness. And it represents a crossing out of all of our false and limited and negative and destructive beliefs and thoughts, as well as our destructive and limiting emotions. Many times we're driven by our emotions. Unfortunately, many of those emotions are destructive and negative and not for our highest good. The crucifixion then symbolizes the crossing out, the elimination of, and the cleansing, if you will, of the mortal human consciousness. Why is that necessary? Well, we have to cross out and eliminate it. What do we say about LENT? LENT stands for let's eliminate negative thinking. We have to eliminate that which is negative and that which is not for our highest good, to make room for that which is for our highest good and that which will enable us to live the type of life, not only the type of life that we would like to live in our own consciousness, but the type of life that we were created to live. So we're talking about letting go and crossing out and releasing one type of consciousness and opening up ourselves to another. John the Baptist said, I must decrease so that he may increase. Speaking about Jesus. The I is the intellect, the human, the mortal, the physical, limited consciousness that is restricted to the five senses, that is restricted to those things that we experience in our outer life, world, and affairs. During this Lenten season, hopefully you've been taking some time to pray and taking some extra special time to sit in the silence and be still and to maybe even do some spiritual study. And we spoke about ways of doing that. Maybe you've meditated upon the life and activities of Jesus. Maybe you meditated perhaps on some of his miracles or perhaps some of his teachings. Perhaps you've given up something physical, maybe something that you used to eat, but you gave it up for Lent, or perhaps something that you used to drink or used to do, and perhaps you've given it up for Lent. Hopefully we've given up some of our negative thinking and reactions to things in life. If we've done some of that, even just some of that, then we are ready to take the final step in our own life, in our own soul growth. We are ready to take the final step in the process of regeneration. What we are talking about, the transformation that we are talking about, the life changes that we are talking about are a process. It's not something whereby you can read one book and you've got it, or you go to one lesson, so hear one lesson sermon, and you've got it. No, it's a process of growth and unfoldment. And what we are about to do this evening represents a very important part of that process of regenerating ourselves, remaking ourselves, if you will. Jesus' purpose in going to the cross was to meet and to overcome the last dreaded enemy of mankind, which is death, physical death. And thereby he opened for all people a new and living way into the kingdom and into the experience of eternal life. Earlier in his ministry, Jesus said, "My sheep follow me, and I give them eternal life." Jesus' teachings were about eternal life. Not life in the hereafter, not life in the sweet by and by, but living an eternal life, living a full and fulfilling life right here on this earth, in this body. All of his teachings were recognized by the early apostles and other followers of Jesus. And it is written that death is swallowed up in victory. Thanks be to God who giveth us the victory. Jesus indeed was the light which lighteth every man coming into the world.